Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, guys. So the first Monday night game of the 2019 NFL football season did not disappoint. The Saints get the win over the Texans 30-28, a Will Lutz 58-yard game-winning field goal as time expires. The crazy thing about that field goal, it would have been good from about 70. Not only did it go past the crossbar, but it hit the freaking padding where the stands are at. That has to be 10, 15 yards behind the freaking uprights. That would have been good from about 70 yards. I knew when they had it lined up dead center, Drew Brees was throwing over the middle for a reason, got them right to the 40-yard line. My girlfriend asked me, where do they have to get to try to make this kick? I said, the 40-yard line, that gives you a chance. They got it right to the 40. Will Lutz steps up, kicks it right down the middle, and it would have been good from at least 65 yards. But this was a phenomenal football game. I don't usually do NFL videos, but I needed to hop on, talk about this game. I had no dog in this fight. I didn't give a damn who won this matchup tonight. But this was a big-time football game. Drew Brees going up against Deshaun Watson, the ageless wonder in Drew Brees, kind of like Tom Brady, not quite as good. But Drew Brees is a one of the best quarterbacks of all time. You left him 37 seconds on the clock, and he does what a big-time Hall of Fame quarterback does. But then you got Deshaun Watson. Dabo Swinney called him the Michael Jordan of football. Now, there was probably a little bit of bias in that since he was his coach at Clemson, but Deshaun Watson is really that big-time. I don't think he's quite Patrick Mahomes, but he's right there. He's one of the top-tier franchise quarterbacks in the NFL. If I had my pick of any franchise quarterback right now, he would be on a very short list. He's that great, and he had a big-time game tonight. He really did. The Texans dominated this game for about 2.5 quarters. It looked like the Texans were going to get a very impressive win on the road against the Saints in week 1 on Monday Night Football. They fell a little bit short, but there's really no loser in this game. One team had to win, one team had to lose. No team should hang their head. I think both of these teams are going to be really good this year. We know the Saints are going to be right there. They're one of the best teams in the NFC. If not for a missed pass interference penalty, the Saints would have been in the Super Bowl last year instead of the Rams. Now, I'll still say Drew Brees threw a pick. They got the ball in overtime. That's their fault. That's on them. I think people did a little bit too much crying for the Saints and the penalty that they did not get in the NFC Championship. But at the end of the day, it was a clear penalty. It was a ridiculously missed call. There's no reason for it, just an egregious missed call. But at the end of the day, the Saints had a chance. Drew Brees threw an interception in overtime, and that was on them. But the Saints say, hey, we don't talk about that. It's a new season. We've moved on. But they'll be right there in the NFC. But kind of my takeaway from this game is how good I think the Texans are going to be. They lose Lamar Miller, their number one running back, in the preseason, and a lot of people thought that was going to be a big hit. But in the Jadeveon Clowney trade, they get Carlos Hyde back in return. And I thought Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson looked really good as a 1-2 punch tonight. They were very formidable. Take a look at these numbers here for Carlos Hyde. He was doing the Ezekiel Elliott feed me tonight. A lot of Buckeyes in this game. You got Carlos Hyde balling out, Michael Thomas, Teddy Ginn. A lot of Buckeyes. Marshawn Lattimore, who was all over DeAndre Hopkins, was getting in his face, was getting physical with him, but at the end of the day, DeAndre Hopkins won this matchup like he usually does. I think it's fair to say DeAndre Hopkins is the best receiver in the NFL. Michael Thomas is right there. But DeAndre Hopkins' production over the last 3 years, you got to give him that title right now. And, he did what he does tonight. 13 targets. He's the most targeted receiver in the NFL, whether it's Deshaun Watson or it's any quarterback the Texans have had over the last couple of years. They looked at DeAndre Hopkins almost every damn play. He had 8 receptions tonight, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. So he went crazy, and he dropped about 3 or 4 passes tonight that DeAndre Hopkins does not drop. I kept yelling at the TV, catch the freaking ball, DeAndre. Like, he does not drop those balls. He dropped at least 3 of those tonight that he does not drop. I think the stat last year was he didn't have 1 drop. I could be wrong about that. But DeAndre Hopkins is just big time. 2 touchdowns tonight. But Carlos Hyde, 10 carries, 83 yards. Duke Johnson, 9 carries, 57 yards. And Duke Johnson also good in the pass game, 4 receptions, 33 yards. They got a nice 1-2 combination with Hyde and Duke Johnson. Now, we'll see if it continues. Still 15 games to play, but I thought Carlos Hyde looked really good tonight. And then at receiver for the Texans, we know how great DeAndre Hopkins is. We know Will Fuller, when healthy, is big time his first few years in the NFL. He's a touchdown machine, but he just can't avoid those injuries that just keep popping up. But he was on the field tonight, didn't really have a huge impact. 2 catches, 69 yards, so he had the yardage, but only 2 receptions. But when he's on the field, him and DeAndre Hopkins are a deadly combination at receiver. But a big pickup they had this offseason was Kenny Stills. I said, not to anybody, but I said it to myself when they got Kenny Stills. He's really going to help that offense because now that gives them a legit third receiver. He's the perfect number 3. He's not a 2. He's obviously not a 1, but he's the perfect number 3. Kenny Stills is. And, man, he made a huge catch tonight, giving the Texans the win late in the fourth quarter, 37 seconds to go. Deshaun Watson hits Kenny Stills right down the middle, 37-yard touchdown. Deshaun Watson takes a huge shot on this play, giving the Texans, actually it tied it up at 27 at that point. And then the Texans kicker missed an extra point for absolutely no reason, and the Saints roughed the kicker, and the Texans got another attempt, made it 28-27. Drew Brees came right down, 37 seconds to go. They actually only got 2 plays off on that game-winning drive. I thought they had wasted too much time. There was no, they just weren't rushing to get up to the line. They didn't call their timeout. There was only 6 seconds left. They had to run a play, and then they had to call a timeout and kick the field goal. But big-time drive by Drew Brees. You leave him 37 seconds on the clock. A lot of times he's going to make you pay, just like Tom Brady and all the other great ones. But overall tonight, Deshaun Watson, big-time performance, 20 for 30, 268 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He also rushed the ball 4 times for 40 yards and a touchdown. He had that long touchdown run where he dove into the end zone backwards, landed on his back, had to go in the tent for a little while. They were checking him out. Then he did come back in the game. Luckily, he was all right, but big-time performance by Deshaun Watson tonight. And then on the other side, Drew Brees, 32 for 43, 370 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Alvin Kamara, 13 carries, 97 yards. He also had 7 receptions for 72 yards. Alvin Kamara is big time, man. He's one of the best running backs in the NFL. Great in the pass game. Great as a runner as well. Just a great player in Alvin Kamara. But at wide receiver for the Saints, you got Michael Thomas, one of the best in the business. 13 targets tonight, same as DeAndre Hopkins. He had 10 receptions, 123 yards. DeAndre Hopkins and Michael Thomas are just so efficient. They're going to get 13 to 15 targets a game, and it's like they always come up with 10 plus receptions. They're just the 2 most efficient receivers in the game. Michael Thomas right there, second, third, fourth best receiver in the NFL. You could make a case Thomas and DeAndre might be the best 2 in the league right now. Obviously, Julio. We'll see what Antonio Brown does with New England. But Michael Thomas, another Buckeye, balling out in this game, just like Carlos Hyde, just like Marshawn Lattimore, and then Teddy Ginn. 7 catches, 101 yards, another Buckeye. When he came into the NFL, he was really just a deep threat guy, but he has turned himself into a legit receiver over these years, and a big-time game out of him tonight. 7 catches, 101 yards. Overall, Buckeyes just dominated this game, which I love to see, but this was a great football game. 2 teams giving their all. You had all the excitement of the Texans getting a big lead, the Saints come roaring back, the Texans come back, take the lead with 37 seconds to go, and then the Saints come down for the game-winning drive, a 58-yard field goal by Will Lutz, which is now his career high. It was 57. He hits a 58-yarder, would have been good from about 70. So this was just a great football game, the first Monday night game of the 2019 NFL season. So I was hyped up about it. Just a great game. So wanted to get on here, talk about it, give my thoughts. I think both these teams are going to have really good seasons. I think the Saints probably be back in the NFC Championship. We'll see with the Texans. I don't think their defense is quite as good now, getting rid of Jadeveon Clowney, but they did get some good pieces in that trade, so we'll see. You got New England in the AFC. They're obviously not going to get past New England. Nobody's beating New England. It's just as simple as that. They looked unstoppable last night, beating the Steelers 33-3. It's just embarrassing. Ben Roethlisberger's one of the top 10 or 15 quarterbacks of all time, a Hall of Famer, multiple Super Bowls, and when he's on a field with Tom Brady, he's just an absolute scrub. He's just a nobody. He's just a bum. You put him on a field with Tom Brady. That's how wide the gap is. So if you're one of those Tom Brady haters out there, man, it's time to just give it up. The dude is the greatest of all time. There's no debate. It's an absolute joke at this point that anybody would even debate or even argue against Tom Brady. It's just absolutely ridiculous. It's one of the most confusing things I've ever tried to wrap my mind around in my lifetime is why people think Tom Brady's really not that good. He showed you again last night why he's the greatest of all time. But Texans won't get past New England. I think they got a chance to be in the mix. I do think they'll probably win the AFC North. Is that correct? Yeah, I think they're better than the Jaguars. I think they're better than the Colts, obviously, with Andrew Luck retiring. And I think they're probably a little bit better than the Titans, although the Titans did have a great performance, just beating the hell out of the Cleveland Browns. They talked a bunch of smack after the game, so that was good to see. The Browns got just slapped with reality week 1, so we'll see if they can bounce back. But I'm going to go catch the rest of this Raiders and Denver Broncos game. Raiders came down, got a quick touchdown on their first drive. We'll see what John Gruden can do in year 2 with the Oakland Raiders. But that's going to do it for this video. A great game tonight on Monday Night Football. The Saints get the win over the Texans, 30-28 on a 58-yard game-winning field goal as time expires. But that's what's going to do it for this video. I thank anyone who watched this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I will be back with more videos. I will check y'all later, and everybody have a good night.